So I just had some rather disturbing interactions within the last hour connected to DC Capitol Police. Last year, there was a command toward the end of the year in regards to DC Capitol Police being ordered to be killed. That's a very aggressive command. However, with a lot of the knowledge I already had, specifically in connection to the insurrection and all of the cover-up crimes connected to the generals, it didn't surprise me that it came down to such an aggressive command to kill DC Capitol Police, because they clearly were not doing their job. And clearly DC was a freaking mess if they were allowed to call in troops for no effing reason. Okay. So, they haven't been doing their job, and there were other commands that came in way before that, earlier that year, that Congress had been adjourned indefinitely due to a fraudulent and staged 2024 election. Okay. I have a lot of systems on my head, so they don't want this information out. So they're going to do anything to kind of mess with me with their little AI memes and implants. I have a lot of marksmen on me. A lot of marksmen came off of my head before. There was at least 5 connected to me that are murdering me actively with contracts out of DC. It's a mess right now. So in terms of Congress being adjourned indefinitely, when they were not following orders, there were orders for the DC Capitol Police to pull out every Republican out of the Capitol outside and literally shoot them one by one, like outside. Like, I mean, that's where it came. It was like, take them out back and fucking get rid of them. I mean, that's the level of this attack on our country. This is how serious it is. We've known how serious this has been. It's beyond red alert, and the gaslighting in terms of what really has been going on behind the scenes is so disturbing. And there are hundreds of Scientology teams, their Sea Org, which they have over 5,000 members, that are involved in the gaslighting of who I am and those kind of commands and what's really going on, the gaslighting of the US media in terms of what's really going on. The Republicans have been stripped of their rights and freedoms because of what they did to our country. It's so much darker than Roe versus Wade. What they did with the neuroweapons and the nuclear docs that they got their hands on, that science, those military patents, is deadly. What they agreed to do is so sick. I mean, you know, they're not in their right mind anymore. I have other intel. I understand, like, they've been involved in so many dark rituals. Matt Gaetz was involved in really dark rituals. You know, I was attached to them. I was stuck with them, and I don't know how I was stuck next to them, but for whatever reason, we were in the same system. So, I mean, it goes back to Joe Biden. I think he was trying to introduce me to them, and they had to figure out who I was and things like that. Everything was a mess. Everything still is a mess. But I think the most disturbing thing that was coming in recently in regards to the police there, the DC police, is that I was asking what country they were from, and it was coming in that they were from Dubai and Saudi Arabia. Why would DC Capitol Police be coming in with an origin from another country? Although that would not surprise me, you know, because of all of the suicides we heard about coming out of Capitol Police after the insurrection. It wouldn't surprise me that there was some type of underground Nazism going on within their police, and I'm hearing it was a cult. And if you either were on board with what they were or you were gone, kind of a thing. Also, depending on maybe how much you knew, maybe they were threatening their lives, or maybe they were doing the Havana Syndrome programs on them, which are torture programs, and I'm a victim of those same torture programs. But I'm thinking that maybe Donald Trump ended up just putting in people from other country into the police, so then it was easier to use them, per se. Maybe they'd be coming in under a contract, a foreign contract or something like that. So I'm still trying to get to the bottom of that. I'm like, how is it our DC Capitol Police, they're not even coming in as Americans? So that makes perfect sense in terms of the shit show that we've been witnessing and why Congress was never adjourned and why those commands never were carried out. My phone is like moving on me. So it could just be that there might not be a whole lot of Americans left or in the Capitol Police. Or the other conclusion I was coming to is like maybe they have a part 2 DC Capitol Police. Like it's like another version of them where they're operating out of the same systems, because I found something similar to that with the FBI this morning, where they have their own FBI cartel. It's like an FBI, but it's cartel FBI, and they're operating out of the same bureau, Manhattan Bureau systems, but it's like the cartel's version of the FBI, which is Trump's FBI. So I was like, maybe they did the same thing with the DC Capitol Police, and they did a part 2 of it, and the part 2 is foreign enemies, but they're working out of the same hub of DC Capitol Police, because DC Capitol Police is huge. Okay, so I was trying to figure that out today, if it's just 2 branches of their police. It was coming in that they were connected to a lab. It was coming in DC Labs, Embry-Riddle, but then when I was asking if it was at Embry-Riddle, it went back to DC Labs. So it could be an Embry-Riddle lab that's located in DC that's operating under Air Force, because that could be potentially how they pulled off 9/11. I wouldn't be surprised if they had another Embry-Riddle type lab in DC, because the Pentagon also was attacked during 9/11. So they could have had a team right there, which could be how they were able to get that close to the Pentagon. You know, Bill Barr is directly connected to the 9/11 attacks. And he's still been operating underground, alive and well, doing all of this. Okay. He's been working with labs in, I want to say, Manhattan. I know Mark Milley was working with labs in Princeton, New Jersey for a little bit. They were also working with labs in Metuchen. I can't figure out what the labs were in Metuchen, if it was coming in under like a pharma lab, like a pharmaceutical company's lab, because there's a lot of pharma in New Jersey. Like, I don't know if it was like an independent lab. The Princeton labs, I'm assuming it was on campus. That's what it felt. It felt like it was a campus lab. They have been using campus labs. They are notorious for using these campus labs because they're the easiest to break into. I was getting UC Davis was campus labs, because there's kids in the labs. There's like students in the labs. Embry-Riddle labs were also coming in from the actual university in Florida with students from that school. I was a direct victim of those lab experiments, and they were enrolled in the university. So they were around ages 18 to 22. There were other labs that came in through the media that we heard about. I believe Harvard had a lab that was doing human soap off of cadavers. Okay. So I don't know how truthful that story is, but I am hearing a lot about the labs on college campuses. They are using these labs to some degree. Private schools, they can do it very easily in the off hours, because I would be getting attacked at nighttime by these labs. Like after school's out of session, it would be like around 8 p.m. I would be getting attacked. I could see the people working on me in the labs just because of the technologies that I had. Like I could I can pull them up out of a lineup. I could definitely pick them out. You know what I mean? So in terms of this Embry-Riddle lab in DC, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there was like another name that came in coordination with this DC lab. It was saying Pentagon. They were saying Pentagon. And I know they're operating out of the Pentagon. I've seen Sergey Lavrov with operations out of the Pentagon. He had operations going for at least 3 months, like full-blown operations. I know they moved those operations as soon as I outed it on my channel or on Patreon. They moved it to an even further location underground that I wouldn't like have access to, like a tunnel. But in terms of other ideas, I mean, when I'm in the Pentagon, I mean, I can see the Pentagon, I can see rooms and stuff in the Pentagon, but in terms of like I can kind of get locations of where they are in the Pentagon, but I'm not sure if this specific lab is in the Pentagon because it's outside. It's DC Capitol Police. So I don't know where their labs are. So maybe you guys, I don't know if it's the Smithsonian. I know the Smithsonian has facilities underneath it. And I actually think that that's actually part of Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure when he was trying to find the basement to the Alamo. And then he got to the Alamo and there was no basement. I think that they were actually talking about the Smithsonian. I kind of got that intel late last year because there is facilities under the Smithsonian. And there is, I believe there's tunnels under there as well. The tunnels might connect into the Pentagon, not sure. They could have easily connected the tunnels because they have a lot of road guys in crime right now. They have major crime rings in the tunnels. They've moved all of like the Freemasons into the tunnels, into road work, doing cash operations. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were digging some tunnels because they definitely were doing something under the Pentagon connected to Manhattan. I feel like they were trying to do a tunnel system that went from the under the Pentagon directly to Manhattan to move children. I don't know how successful that was, but there's something under there. There is something under there. I don't know what it is, but they were moving something at one point to Manhattan under the Pentagon. Now, in terms of DC Capitol Police and how, I mean, they're obviously, if there were orders to kill them, then that's it. They're gone. They're out. Then they could be foreign enemies. There might not actually be any more Americans in the DC Capitol Police. They might have gutted them. Let me see if they gutted them out. Let me see. Is there any Americans left in DC Capitol Police? Is there any Americans left in DC Capitol Police? Is there any Americans left in DC Capitol Police? So my camera cut out, of course. It feels like there's a few of them that are in there, but it's like not enough. I mean, it feels like it's not enough. You know, it feels like, yeah, I have Death Card coming in. It's like, I guess whatever they've done, it's bad enough so that they would be wiped out. So they are fully working for these foreign enemies right now, okay? Like they are fully activated to work against the country, against Congress, I guess justice-wise, since all of those Republicans were supposed to be dead. So they're going to be protecting the Republicans. So they're put in place strategically to work against us, okay? So they are not for us. They're against justice, and they were ordered to be killed. They are still coming after me and attacking me with weapons through their DC labs, and they're coming in with origins from other countries. So just so you know, if you want to know how effed up DC is, I am telling you, it is beyond effed up. They will have a front operation to make it seem like it's completely like, I was just gonna say kosher, which is that's the Black Cube Israel agenda, but it's not. You know, they have a lot of cleanup teams. I was telling you all on another video about Lidos because I had already looked up Lidos. They had a completely new team. Now I'm finding out the Lidos team that did these weapons that were part of the Russian operations with the techies, that Lidos is actually under Deloitte. So they moved that weapons contractor under an accounting firm's name. But now they're not just like accounting, they've branched out into technologies, okay? And they also have a coalition with Dell, which not surprising, right? And I found ties of Dell to Texas, which is them. I mean, it's not a big shock where the agendas are coming from. It's the same people. And so, yeah. So the Leidos weapons contractor that was doing all the illegal stuff underground, they moved themselves under the name of Deloitte. So I don't know how they're hiding under Deloitte. But they have just been showing me it's through the IRS tax department. It's like how they're doing things. So if they're running weapons through the government under the IRS or however they're doing with their people are fucking, they're mafia, they're Russian mafia out of Manhattan. Like they're like brokers or whatever the fuck they are. They're like, I don't even want to get into it. I don't even know if those guys are even alive anymore. They're like the stock guys, the Wally guys. They were using them to kind of like get into these places. So, from what I gather, when I'm looking up a lot of these companies, weapons seems to be falling under umbrellas of corporations. So it's very easy for them to go in under corporations if they're an overarching corporation like BlackRock or something. I don't remember what the corporation was that I stumbled upon outside of DC. I was talking about it, but I can't remember the name of the company. But under their umbrella was like aerospace. It was like the guys that make our freaking Air Force bomber jets and things like that. And it was under a chemical company umbrella. So, and it was right out of the DC area. It was in Virginia. Yeah, I don't know. So I think it's like they would just kind of hide it under the umbrella. They get the weapons guys under Deloitte. Say it's an umbrella company that has other brands underneath it or something like that. I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, so that's what's coming in for that. So DC is a mess. On top of the DC stuff, I saw Kevin McCarthy with a line of guys that look like marksmen or hitmen ready to go and attack me. I was like, what is that? I don't know what the fuck that was. It's almost like they are operating as if they're their own militia. I was seeing Elon Musk before he died. He was working on a militia out of DC. It was operating very close by to the White House, and the name of the military was Neuralink. I outed that name on Patreon, so they might have moved the name of that military under a different name, but it's the same military. It's the same one. It's a militia. And I saw people from Japan in that military. Like, I saw people from other countries in that military that they were putting together. That could be part of the new DC Capitol Police, or the Capitol Police that they created. Could be under the umbrella of the Neuralink military, which are all people from other countries. And essentially, from what I gathered, Donald Trump and them are just trying to sell off the White House to these other countries, like to create their one world order, like they all get a piece in some way. So we're no longer the United States of America kind of a thing. It's like their one world order. But there's no America in there. There's no America in their one world order, because they sold us all off. They already sold off Americans through Steven Mnuchin and the tax bonds to Goldman Sachs. So, I mean, we really are like, I think their plans, honestly, were just to ditch us and move to Dubai. Like, I think their plans were just to destroy this country and all move to Dubai. Because all these contracts just came in with CAA. and Dubai and all that stuff with Lindsay Lohan, that was all a Scientology staged event. Like, Dubai is so safe and I'm so happy here and whatever she did. So from what I gathered, it's like they were just like gonna just jump ship and all go to Dubai, which is totally who they are. I'm hearing classless whores. But they didn't give a shit about this country. Clearly, they don't give a shit about this country. It's very clear. You would not, you would not destroy every part of this country like Donald Trump did. He destroyed the military with MAGA rallies and all of his Mike Flynn teams. They slowly destroyed MAGA. They infiltrated MAGA with the Proud Boys and all of these other trained young men that were trained at our military bases. They infiltrated the military with these types of people and continued their mind control operations and brainwashing. And then on top of the infiltration of the military, which there's even more stuff coming up in Florida as of 3 days ago with connections to Cuba and Pensacola. There are still active live Cuba operations in our U.S. Is that Navy? Our U.S. Navy. That's probably where they're training them now, because I keep running into freaking flight schools and with weapons in their jets, and I'm like, who the fuck are you attacking me with your weapons? And they're like, we're in flight training, and I'm like, all flight training schools were shut down. Pensacola is one of the largest flight schools next to Embry-Riddle, so that could definitely be what the case is. But they're fully in bed with Cuba, like as of 2 days ago. Well, I don't think anybody knew that. I thought that shit was cleaned up, but nope, that is still active. And that's Havana syndrome, if you guys are confused about that. So those are all Havana syndrome operations, which are part of the blacklist and the kill lists. And anyone that goes on those lists goes into sleeper cells and dies while they sleep, okay? So that's Havana syndrome in a nutshell. Now, in terms of, so Donald Trump infiltrated everything. George W. had his own operations, but, obviously Trump took the wheel on that and continued that on to a more intense degree. He infiltrated the police force with Russian systems on their heads, and he infiltrated the FBI with Oleg Deripaska. They did some type of a coalition underground, and Christopher Wray was that point man with Rod Rosenstein. So they were put in place to infiltrate the FBI as command. And so that's our command. So our FBI stopped working. So he infiltrated FBI, and then they obviously were going through everything else. EPA, everything. FDA, all the stuff with Fauci, all that stuff. That was all, they did all of that. That was their show. They infiltrated the post office with a mafia guy, DeJoy. They infiltrated everything. So his job was just to infiltrate everything. We're in the Stone Age in terms of our country being on the actual page of what happened and getting up to date on what happened. He infiltrated the media in Manhattan. He infiltrated the newspapers. He infiltrated the networks. That's what they were working on last year. And we watched CNN get infiltrated. We watched Fox News obviously get more infiltrated. Yeah, so he destroyed our country. That was the idea. And then I think they were just going to ditch out. He was going to live at his freaking golf club in fucking Dubai. I think that was his big fucking plan. They were just going to leave and move to Dubai. And that's why they invested so much in Dubai. And they're like, well, we'll just sell off Americans for money as a crypto. We'll call it XRP or whatever. We'll sell them off to get our money, and then we'll leave the country and flee. There was other dark plans with Saudi Arabia. They were trying to eventually get people to get tricked into going into the desert in Saudi Arabia to that big box that they were creating, and then essentially you never leave the box and you die in the freaking desert. That was one of their operations, one of their dark operations to kill us. They have 82 million kill contracts, so you have to think in terms of their agendas. They have a lot of operations to kill us right now. So on that note, I will leave you guys there. I would love to hear your feedback on this, and I will talk to you all soon. Take care.